Welcome back to Sin's Arcade, and more importantly, welcome to a special episode with an interview between myself and Professor Cynical, a well-established veteran of the No Man's Sky community. He asked me to take part in an interview where we talked about the history and potentially some skepticism, or at least a speculation, on the future of No Man's Sky and potentially Hello Games. Granted, this is armchair discussion just between the two of us, but it has merit because it does give some experience from our perspectives as to where the game has been, and where it is going. There is one other point that I want to point out to you as well. You're going to see some weird glitching in the episode. That's something along with my Elgato capture card, so please just stick with me on it. We had a bunch of other technical difficulties. A bunch of people decided to show up in the middle of the interview. It's fun though. It's funny. So all that being aside, I know it's a little longer. It's about an hour, but it's a worthwhile interview, and I hope that not only will you take the time to view that interview and for all the information that's included in therein, but also that you potentially take a look at Professor Cynical's channel if you have not already done so. Maybe you're not into the kind of content that I always do, or maybe you're looking for something different. Professor Cynical has it there for you, and he has a lot of passion about what he does. So thank you all for the time, the support. Please enjoy this, and I will see you guys next time. Have a happy and safe one. Peace.
Right, no worries. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with the one and only Sin. Now, Sin, thank you very much for joining me here today with this interview. Well, it's not really much of an interview, to be fair. It's about all of the latest and greatest with No Man's Sky, the good and the bad. Are you ready to have this conversation, my friend?
Oh, I am absolutely ready to have the conversation. Thank you so much for having me, Senior Professor Cynical, the one and only Cynical, so stoic, and I appreciate it. How can I be of assistance to you? What can I enlighten you with?
Okay, well, it seems that we've had such a lovely time even trying to connect to even start this interview today. Let's talk about the current state of No Man's Sky when it comes down to multiplayer. How has multiplayer been for you since the Omega update?
The multiplayer since the Omega update has been lackluster, and that's being flattering. If you really want my sincerest honesty, the multiplayer has been borked for almost 2 years now, and without any rhyme or reason as to why that is the case either. It used to be working really, really well, and then after I want to say the third or fourth Zoo get-together night, where Zoo Games was still with us, rest in peace, Zoo. When the third or fourth one of his community night he set up, that's when we started having really big issues. Matter of fact, I remember distinctly because it was after we made the ship, see how many ships we could get on top of the trading outpost. And there were like 30 or 40 ships there. It was crazy.
I remember that. Oh my god, that was crazy.
That was the last time. That was the last time that the multiplayer worked adequately well in No Man's Sky. And it has not been the same since. And I'm being full on honest.
I mean, was it like No Man's Sky originally to be like a single player experience, but then there was an outcry? If I remember this correctly, do let me know if I'm wrong about this, but was it meant to be like a single player experience, and then there's an outcry within the community saying, look, we really want multiplayer, and then it was just kind of tacked on to the end of the game. It wasn't really meant to be much of a feature, and they've not really done much with it since. I mean, that's what I take, because this multiplayer stuff at the minute it's been horrendous. It really has. Multiplayer for No Man's Sky has probably been the biggest disappointment ever.
I agree. Now, because Sean Murray came from EA, he used to work for Electronic Arts way back in the day, before Joe Danger and everything else. Because he used to work for EA, he knew with a pretty good understanding and the concept that he wanted for No Man's Sky. He wanted something that was going to be within the realm of 50s to 80s science fiction type of feel. And yes, it was never originally intended to be a multiplayer experience. It was only intended to be a single player experience. Now, Sony, in their infinite wisdom, did not back up Hello Games by giving them any kind of PR. So that's why Sean Murray was the PR face for the company and with Sony. Sony injected them with a ton of money, and they're probably the ones who basically mandated, hey, let's add a multiplayer aspect. I don't think that was originally ever something that was supposed to be part and partial or was part of the original concept, truthfully. I don't know for certain, I can speculate, but just based off of how everything went down, I'm willing to bet that's exactly the tail of the tape.
I mean, I know that Hello Games utilizes the Azure Microsoft servers.
Flat out honest. I'm not going to pretend like I do know. And I'm like, oh, of course, here's you get to do this, this, and this. And
it's one of those.
I will say this though. Let me just add this really quick thing, and this is kind of important because I don't think anybody's really talked about this. Back in 2013, when GameSpy went down, and by 2015 was completely gone. GameSpy was gone. When that happened, game servers for any major multiplayer game have never, ever been the same. Ever since. Period, bar none. You can check it, and that's not just me being hyperbolic. That's not me trying to say a controversial hot take. You can actually look at it, and I'm willing to bet if we had GameSpy today, or something very similar to that, if some company decided to really take it on the chin and try to go to that route, and take up the mantle that GameSpy had, then we would probably be in a much better place. More and more games are games as a service, or GaaS, or whatever your live service games, and they require those kind of dedicated servers, not just the peer-to-peer, but obviously the peer-to-host. And so you need to make sure that there's something like that. And unfortunately, there's nothing to take that place right now. If that had been the case, then we probably wouldn't even be having this discussion about the multiplayer.
Exactly. And the fact is, No Man's Sky, it's not even like No Man's Sky is a new game. You can't just say it's a settling in process. I mean, what, it's 7-8 year old now, 2016? It's been around for a very, very long time. So you would have thought by now something would have been sorted with networking. But, I'm pretty sure we could both speak about networking now for the rest of this entire video because we're about it. But going forward, what do you think about the Omega update? Do you think it lived up to its full hype and expectation, or do you feel like it was a bit more of a disappointment?
I think that's a really good question, because since the debacle that was the initial launch of No Man's Sky, and again, you can't really blame Sean Murray for trying to overhype whatever he can. I mean, he was under a lot of stress. They had to deal with the floods that wiped all of their progress out and rebuild from there. There was a lot of stuff that went into the building of way above and beyond what most other studios have to deal with. Plus the fact that their studio at the time that they made or launched No Man's Sky was only like 15 people. They're only at 30 people now. And those 30 people are working between whatever they're adding to No Man's Sky and whatever they're planning to do for Light No Fire. Plus that other games they released in between. I honestly don't remember what it is off the top of my head.
I think it was Last Campfire.
Yeah, Last Campfire. There you go. That's what it is. So I will say that coupled with the fact that they've repeatedly put out update after update after update that is free and potentially content rich. There's that goodwill that they built up, but in the same mention, you've got other larger YouTubers like yourself or other people I'm not going to name because I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, right? But I will say that their coverage of experimental stuff, like seeing the new space stations long before they're actually officially ready, that kind of spoils it for everybody else because then they're hyped and they think, and I honestly thought, just like a lot of us, we're finally getting those space stations in Omega. Then you got, well, if Alpha was the first and you're following the biblical potentiality or the Greek potentiality of Alpha and Omega, then Omega would technically be the last. Does that mean that this is the final one? Even though you just changed some of the stuff with the Atlas path, that means it's done? I don't know. I mean, you know what I mean? There's a lot of questions that cannot be adequately answered because there's only so much information that gets trickled down from the developers to us.
Yeah, no, I completely understand you. I mean, for example, in the trailer that was at the Game Awards, obviously the trailer showed the new ships which we now see in-game today with the Omega update, but then it also showed the procedural generated space stations. Even the internals of the space stations have all completely changed, but that didn't come through with Omega. Now, obviously, like you touched upon there, you know, you take the Omega meaning by the biblical sense, the last, the first and the last. And, you know, even though we know that this year, in 2024, and even Mr. Murray did go on stage and say that No Man's Sky is going to have one of the biggest years yet. So, is this the biggest year? Because it's going to be one of the last years for major content. I mean, where do you feel around about that?
I would like them to add more stuff to the background simulation. If you want to have this thing to have legs. See, the other problem with No Man's Sky, at least for a couple of years, was, yeah, they were giving out so many free updates with so many new mechanics to work with, but then they never went back and did any further iteration on most of those mechanics. So yeah, while we have a lot of things, it's that whole, it's a mile wide, but it's an inch deep. Maybe now it's about 2 inches deep, but you have to understand the pedigree that I come to, and I'm probably not like a lot of other people. I've been playing video games and making video games, making tabletop role-playing games, just gaming in general for well over. No, I don't want to play. Just kind of leave me alone. Oh no, get off the screen. This guy just sent me an invite to join, and it's stuck in the middle of my screen. I can't hit accept or decline because I was in photo mode. Anyway, all right, where was I? Hold on just a second. So, where they were launching a bunch of things, and now it's not necessarily a mile wide and 2 or 3 inches deep, but you still have a lot of these additional systems that they haven't really implemented further iterations on, right? I'm used to Elite Dangerous or Star Traders Frontiers, where there's a lot more in the background simulation running, so you don't just feel like you're one person in a dead universe or a dead galaxy or whatever the case may be. That there, you know, we have all these other factions, for example. We have all of the foundational pieces there to improve on the background simulation, and yet it's not been worked on more. Like, there's these new ground or planetary missions. I haven't even seen those yet. Have you seen those?
No. To be fair, I did go out looking for them just off camera earlier, and I couldn't find any myself.
Yeah, I don't know where they're at. I have no clue.
It's one of those where, you know, I completely understand where we're coming from with, you know, about how they add so much gloss to the game, you know, they add so much eye candy to the game. But when it comes to the in-game mechanics, I feel like they're more concentrated on bringing people, you know, quick thrills rather than more deeper integration. And it's something that I've actually been campaigning on my channel for a while, where, you know, I want the middle to end game users to have more replayability into the game. So, for example, you know, like you say, you play. What was the space game again that you said?
There's 2 other space games that I mentioned. Elite Dangerous, which is probably the granddaddy of all space games. Well, Elite is the granddaddy of all space games. Elite Dangerous is just the newest iteration. But Star Traders Frontiers, which is an indie game series. Star Traders Frontiers is made by 2 brothers, 2 guys, and yes, the graphics aren't as pretty as No Man's Sky by any measure. But what you can do in that game, the things that you can do, the background system that's always going, it's amazing. Those emergent stories are always there, and yes, it can be struggle. It can be. I mean, if it wasn't a challenge, you wouldn't want to play it, right? Nobody plays games to become a power creep and just become God, and then never want to play. And you're not going to want to play the game anymore. You have to have some challenge. But if they followed, well, I understand that, but I mean, you still have to have some challenge, because if you're not creating the challenge yourself, you want the challenge to be natural to the experience.
Yeah, no, I fully understand. I mean, and this is the thing, right? So, Elite Dangerous, for example, and even EVE Online, because I've done a bit of EVE Online before. You know, they all have that replayability factor because they all have, for example, factions. They all have people that you can play with, and you can fight each other, and you can have space battles, and you can do like mining in space, and actually having ships dedicated to mining. And it's not just like in No Man's Sky where you just like shoot a couple of asteroids and you have to physically go and mine the resources. I think that is such an indispensable tool that those games have that really make the games what they are. So why can't No Man's Sky, do you think, implement something or some sort of mechanic where it really does enhance the replayability factor? Because like at the minute, I feel like a lot of my comments that I get on my videos are, well, you know, there's nothing really to do in No Man's Sky. I'm in mid to late game. You know, what do you recommend? And it's like, well, do you go and build a base, or you know, go and join a civ group or something like that to try and make your own fun? But do you think they could implement something that really could stretch the legs a bit more for No Man's Sky?
I think that they could, but I also think that would probably be antithetical to their original concept. And I don't know. I know that they wanted to be different. They wanted to be different than the other ones out there. And it's kind of funny because by being different, by being a more arcadey, not simulation, right? Elite Dangerous, EVE Online, those are closer to, or Star Citizen, those are simulations. Even X4 Foundations. I've recently been playing X4 Foundations on PC as well. Even X4 Foundations has that simulation aspect. This is adjacent enough to those, and it's gained enough of the market share now that it's put those other companies into more jeopardy. It's made, especially Elite Dangerous, kind of rethink some of the things, even though David Braben has his own that's a whole other level of discussion right there. But it's still given those company room for thought. Hey, this little nobody, you know, basically little nobody company out of Guildford, right? Guildford. Yeah, I want to say it's Guildford.
Yeah, Guildford. Yeah.
Little bitty company out of nowhere, known primarily for a mobile game called Joe Danger, where you're just running along a preconceived track, a linear track, right? And then they're like, how are they going to do that? But after the rebound, to the point where now No Man's Sky is synonymous with phenomenal comebacks, rare phenomenal comebacks, especially in this industry, is set the precedent. But at the same token, you're right. Once you hit, especially late game, there's not much else to do, nothing else that's really going to drag me in. And I'll be honest, that's why I mostly left as well. It wasn't just the implementation of being able to toggle your difficulty in the settings. I think that really hurt the game too. Truthfully, I think that absolutely did. Because once you gave people the ability to cheat, nothing wrong with that, but play at their own bit. I don't have a problem with cheaters, especially for single player game. But when you do cheat, especially in a single player game, you're cheating yourself. You're cheating yourself out of the experience to know what you're cheating yourself out of. You won't even know what it is because you've decided to cheat instead. Now, as a content creator, even though I kind of hate using those two words in the same bed, I'd rather just say creator. I'm sure you can agree with me. We sometimes need that additional extra oomph because we don't have enough time to do the grinding, because we have to do the grind, we have to record as much as we can, we're going to have to do this intro, that outro, get this amount of B-roll, still have to do the editing, we still have to do the OV narration or voice or commentary after the fact, or whatever the case may be. We have all these different things, thumbnails, all that extra work that we have to do. It's not just being able to play it and enjoy it for what it is, because we have a job to do at the same time. where we could afford to take that, we're still losing and cheating ourselves through that experience, or from that experience the developer intended to. And as a game developer myself, I absolutely can understand. I can see it from that perspective, right? I don't know. It's an interesting.
Yeah, it's one of those. When they brought in that menu, see, what I've always liked about doing like glitches and, you know, finding virtually all the little cheaty ways in the game is I always felt like, regardless that yes, people do it and I'm showing people how to do it, but you still had to work to do it. There was still some involvement of you had to get the setup right, you had to physically go ahead and do it. But with that menu implementation, it's a flick of a switch, and that's it. You get anything you want in the game completely free. I think that's what takes away most of the fun from it, and it takes away that experience then from players, where prior to that, I would upload, let's say, you know, a new duplication video because I found something new with how to do something crazy with refiners, but you still had to go ahead and set it up. You still had to put the time and the effort in to do those duplication glitches, and it wasn't so crazy where you got everything all at once. You still had to grind the duplication in order to get the amount of stock that you needed. But when they just implemented that, I think, yeah, exactly. I just think that just really kind of bummed the game down in such a big way. And I think after all this time, even now, I still think that menu needs to disappear. I think that needs to go, and that needs to be taken away from the players. I really do think that.
I agree. I can actually agree. But at the same token, I also agree with the point of, hey, let people play the way that they want to play. The only thing I would say is maybe make a warning screen, a little splash screen saying, hey, warning, if you do this and this is your first time playing, it's going to fundamentally change your experience. We recommend you play it on normal stock difficulties or whatever first, then come back into this menu and play. Or you know what I mean? I mean, that's a little a little wordy, but something to that effect, right? Something to at least give people the warning. And that way, if they decided they want to continue, and I'm sure there might be a little warning like that now. I don't know. It's been a while since they found that menu and messed with it. If you don't give them the warning and say somebody brand new got this game, they want to get their $40 or $60 out of the game, but then they do that and they drop the game after 15 hours, if they even get that far, then did they really get their money's worth? I mean, everybody has different value systems, sure, but I don't know.
I mean, what they could do, it's like how they do in permadeath, where if you select permadeath, you are locked on permadeath. You cannot change those settings. So maybe if a player wants to play creative, then it should lock you for only playing creative. That way then, if you want to play the game normally, you will have to make a brand new save for that. That way then you have a creative for maybe experimenting with buildings and, you know, new designs and just getting resources quickly to go and do whatever you want to do. But then your main game, your normal save, can never just be then cheesed like that in such a way. I think that would also be a very good implementation.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I don't know. I would like to see them add a little bit more meat to the bone before they give it up, because I know that they're going to give it end of life for a little longer, but there's no guarantee how much longer they're going to want to keep those servers open, right? Especially if they're renting those servers. So, and why wouldn't you? You're going to keep it open for a little bit of time, but you're going to be trying to do your best to migrate people over to your brand new game, because that's the new hotness. That's where you're going to get more money. The trickle down effect from, granted, here's the new thing. That's the other thing we didn't touch on yet. The free to play aspect. Now, is the free to play aspect now just part of Omega only, or is it going to be a permanent fixture where you have a free trial to try it out? Have they hit such a saturation point that they can afford to essentially let it go free to play while they work on Light No Fire and continually build that up? I don't know, but I don't know that it wouldn't be worthwhile for them to pack it up in the long run and let it go at the 10-year mark, for example.
Yeah, I mean, when that got introduced, to be fair, I see the free-to-play scheme as a really good thing for No Man's Sky, because it entices players that even the game hasn't been out for a very long time, and periodically, when especially especially when we get new big updates, it goes on a 50% sale. But people are still, especially in this economy, in this day and age, people just don't have the free capital these days to go and spend even, 20, 30, 40 pound on the game, or dollars, or whatever it is in your currency. So having that free-to-play aspect, if someone's always on the fence about it, but didn't want to just buy the game and then they just didn't enjoy it, at least then it gives them a taste of what the game is, and then they'll have a more informed purchasing decision. If anything, I think this was a very smart move by Epic Games. I think that's going to boost up the numbers big time when it comes to purchasing power for No Man's Sky for the consumer.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I honestly, that's why I thought, and I could be wrong, but I honestly thought this was going to be that they were going to keep to that, and stick with it. Because it's, with other free-to-play games, you're waiting for the shoe to drop. You're waiting for that other shoe to drop, and it usually does. As soon as you run out of energy or this or that or gems or whatever MacGuffin they're using, you typically then have to go to the store. Or like, oh man, I'd like to change my outfit. Oh, well, I only have enough in-game currency to buy this outfit, but I'm short just a little bit. So wait, is there a way for me to gain more without having to grind? Oh, there's a store there. Oh, look, like Skull and Bones, for example. That just came out. So I just saw that it cost almost $60 on top of the $60 you spent to get the game, just for one outfit.
You're kidding? See, I've not actually touched that game yet. You're kidding? Really?
I'm not kidding. I mean, it could be a slight, really close to it, but I don't know anybody who's gonna go out of their way, even Star Citizen bros, right? And you guys know who I'm talking to right now. There's nobody who's gonna go out of their way and like, you know what? I haven't spent enough money on this, and I barely played like 3 hours of it. Let me just buy another a costume for my digital character that costs as much as the entire game, a quadruple A game, mind you. Can't even say that with a straight face.
Yeah, I know. I actually remember looking at the article and they called it quadruple A games, and then the torrent of negative reviews.
If you see the mechanics in that game, there is nothing quadruple about that except for their greed. That's the only thing that quadrupled.
I can imagine. I really can imagine. But we're getting off topic.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's fine. We know, for example, that No Man's Sky, well, it's not been officially confirmed, but it has been pretty much confirmed by, data miners and people going to the files, and even Mr. Murray himself to some degree, and even in the trailer. We would have ship racing coming into the game. How do you feel about that one?
Okay, so since you're bringing that up, ship racing, I had heard about rumors, but I haven't heard anything further about that. They can't even get the exocraft racing to work. I would love to see ship racing go. I really would, but I also know there are people who, especially on PC, can mod the save game, which console players cannot do readily, which already gives them an advantage, right? And then on top of that, again, I call back to the exocraft stuff. You gave us the stuff to make racetracks, but we can't make actually any kind of racetracks worthwhile or worth the fun, because as soon as you try to add any additional anything and then try to get multiple people, you get more than 2 or 3 people on a planet to do a race, it all falls apart. How do they think ship racing is going to work?
Yeah, I mean, I was on the same lines as you with that. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's good in principle, but they're really going to have to beef up their multiplayer capacity in order to make it an effective integration. Because at the end of the day, with the ship racing, it's like the way that it's being touted at the minute from the community and the speculation is it's going to be like Wipeout style, where you have like tracks and stuff in space, you can fly around, between 4 and 10 people. I think that in principle is going to be excellent, but like you said, people on PC, especially with cheat engines and everything else, they're just going to be able to crank up all their stats and speeds and get perfect everything and absolutely dominate the track. So there needs to be maybe some kind of checks and balances added into No Man's Sky to make it fair for everybody. And plus on top of that, they need to, like I said, fix a multiplayer part, so then it's not an absolute horrible, dump truck mess. But
But the problem that I can see with that, let me bounce off that. As soon as they go in and try to add any kind of checks or balances for specifically for PC, there's going to be a giant uproar because people use Blender. They use third-party applications for their builds. They use all these additional injection methods. I mean, right? That's what it is. That's what coding is. They're using all these additional injection methods and all these additional options, which are not readily available for the larger player base. I promise you, on my mother's ashes, there are more players playing on consoles than there are on PC. But the PC has more power because they have the ability to modify the game in ways that the console players don't.
So, the take from that then is console players should all go out and buy PCs? Question?
No. As much as I would like to see that, that's a whole other kettle of wax. If you guys are listening and you guys are interested in getting into PC building, take it from somebody who's been working with PCs for over 40 years. I've been building them, rebuilding them, playing games on them, everything you can think of for well over 40 years. It is not as easy as the plug-and-play systems with consoles. That's why consoles have the vast majority of the market share, because it is plug-and-play. Enjoy the plug-and-play while you can. If you want to get into something beefier, sure. I don't use the PC Master Race because that's not a reality at all. Every gamer is a gamer, regardless of the platform you play on, and every platform is valid regardless of the player itself. I mean, I'm a multi-platform gamer. I don't see anything wrong with playing games on any kind of platform, and none of them are inferior, because if you're gaming on it, then and you have friends that play with you on that, then more power to you. There's nothing inferior about that whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So, moving forward then, for the rest of the year for No Man's Sky, obviously we've seen a lot in that trailer which hasn't come out to the public yet. Do you think then, seeing as though we've only got, like, for example, the new ships and even the new helmets, jetpacks, that kind of thing, from this Omega update, do you think that it's going to be like a trickle year? Do you think everything that we've seen in that trailer is going to be then split up, maybe for another 3 or 4 updates throughout the year? Or what do you think is happening there? Do you think we're going to get everything at once on the next update that we've seen in the trailer? Or do you think it's going to be now snippets?
I think it'll most likely be snippets. It'll be drip fed. I mean, that's how the other ones were, like Atlas, right? Atlas Echoes. They kind of drip fed some of that stuff in. They did some iterations and patches. So, I mean, you got to make sure that as you're bringing and onboarding these additional features or different things on, you can say that they're there. You can put them in the patch notes that they're there, but they may not be ready for prime time just yet until you flip the switch on a specific Tuesday and say, okay, now this is live. And the Zendesk is phenomenal. They will get back to you if you really need to put something in Zendesk. But even the speedrunning community that kind of built up from this, right? Because the No Man's Sky community has a phenomenal YouTube community and Twitch community out there, and there's a lot of really good, compelling creators who are taking it on and trying speed runs and challenge runs and trying to add meat to the bone where the developers aren't. And I'm not saying that fans or players shouldn't do those things. They absolutely should. That builds more community, right? Especially if you have fans or at least somebody who has a louder voice because they are on a platform, they are a creator, they built up 25, 30,000 viewers or subscribers, whatever the case may be. That's a prime opportunity to add like Beeblebump, adding the challenges, right? Adding those things in, because then they give people the reason to come back to No Man's Sky, to spend time in it, and I didn't know there was a new update coming. I guess I'll stick around with this fugitive challenge, and I'll wait for the next update to come in. That's good for Hello Games, even though they're not making any additional money, because, again, as we discussed with the free-to-play, the reason why that works, there are no microtransactions you have to be worried about that are going to hornswoggle you later, right? You're not being bait and switched at all. You're going to free-to-play it until you either buy the game, or maybe if they go to a full free-to-play model, then they're not going to hurt anything because they've already made a ton of money and then some, built up their development firm, added more coders and designers and everybody into the team, and the players are still enjoying it because they're making their own challenges to keep that game fresh.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I completely agree. And like you say, No Man's Sky by far has quite easily by a sizable margin one of the best communities out there. They really do. Everyone's got their own flavour to the game, but the community that they build from that is absolutely outstanding. I mean, everyone that I've ever spoken to or interacted with No Man's Sky has only ever been A grade, easily A grade materials. Always fun, really friendly. But I can't say that about other games either. So I mean, Hello Games with No Man's Sky, they not only struck lightning when they got to work after the disaster of the launch, but they struck lightning twice when the community started to really rise from the ashes. I mean, it just made the game what it is today.
I agree. I absolutely agree, and I'm hoping that it actually has a little bit more steam. I don't know if I'm going to be involved with it much longer, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I've gotten more than my fair share of time out of No Man's Sky. I would love the multiplayer to be better. I would love the background simulation to be deeper. I would love to have, I don't want to take over a whole other system, but like, okay, my girlfriend and I were just talking about this earlier this morning, in fact, or maybe it was last night. The abandoned systems. We thought
Yeah.
once you had the ability to go in and go in a normal space station and do the space station override, excuse me, I was honestly thinking, okay, this is a perfect time for them to implement that for the abandoned stations, the abandoned systems, and get those systems back online. And then you may have a choice on, do I want Viking, or do I want Corvax, or do I want the Gek to take this over? Will I have a hand, or can I have a hand in helping build up, if it's a scientific economy or an agrarian economy or whatever, do I have something that I can be part of that? You may not be the biggest linchpin in it, but you would be part of that experience, and that would be something that I would come back for if they added that.
See, that's actually a really good point. That's something I've not even really spoken about. I mean, my idea was maybe when you went to a space station and you inputted a code, you could then own that space station. But you know what? I didn't even think about the abandoned space stations. I mean, that's actually a really, really fantastic idea. I mean, imagine being able to do that and build the space station up, like how we have settlements on planets, but actually make it more meaningful by having this abandoned outpost that anybody can go to, but that was once abandoned is now thriving with a, like you say, a race, a setting that you choose, and it shows the progression of that particular space station from abandoned to whatever it is that you make it. I think that's actually a really, really good idea.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I have enough experience. I'm not trying to copy what other games do, but at the same token, you can still kind of copy it, or make something in your own, using the mechanics that are here. I can give those suggestions because I can see that they would be not easy to implement, but less hassle to implement than, say, the multiplayer netcode or something along those lines. It would give people an incentive to come back. And I'll be honest with you, like I said, if we couldn't go to war, there's another one. You see systems that are in war, but when you go there, it doesn't look any different than any other system that you go to. I'm like, wait, is there a war going on here or not? What's going on? Something along those lines to give it more, just a tad bit more immersion, and make it feel different enough.
That's the thing, and that again, you've touched upon a very important topic there. You have all these different systems that you go to, and they have, for example, like you said, they're a pirate system, or they're a warring system, or there's something that's meant to be going on in these places, but like you said, when you get there, it looks identical to the last 1,000 you've just been to. So I'd like they do need to implement something like, if you go to a war system, I expect to see, the dreadnought Viking freighters blasting off like fighters from another faction, and it's just an absolute nightmare mess. And that's what anybody really would expect. Or maybe if you go over to a scientific planet or system, maybe you see a bunch of scientific ships and shuttles being like going transferred like from one planet to another, doing just it don't even have to
Can we go
meaningfully
in?
do
Yeah, can we go
anything.
interrupt them? Can we go steal something, some scientific doodad that they found or that they're working on? Here's another one.
Yeah,
They implemented the pirate system, but then kind of really dropped the ball on it. Yeah, you can go do pirating, right? Go grab some contraband, go take it to a system on the sly and help and sell it to them, and maybe they'll scan you. But if I drop, like say I drop my standing with the Gek, and I go back to a Gek station or a Gek system, honestly, they should be coming after me. They should be willing to attack me because I was a pirate and a known pirate, no less. Right? They caught me in the act. There should be some
yeah.
kind of retribution beyond. Oh, you just lost some standing, bro. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I mean, they could literally have, like, you know, NPC please that come and just, like, bang you in the jail in the space station or something. Like, just some sort of different mechanic that gives more immersion. I think that's, at the end of the day, what players are really, really wanting. And, you know, we have these fantastic updates lately, and we can't say that they're not. I mean, they're free updates, but, you know, you do get a lot of different new items, but that's it. They're just items, they're just new toys to play with. But rather than like introducing something as you just suggested there, it then just makes the game just feel like, look at these shiny dangly keys, rather than, you know, real in-game mechanical integration. I think that's what this game desperately needs.
I agree, and I don't want to make this sound like we've been just basically splatting all over Hello Games or No Man's Sky for the last 45 minutes. That is not something that I want to be done. I absolutely love this game. I love the community. If you love something, then you should have the ability to criticize it in the loving fashion with constructive criticism. And I think that's exactly what we've done here today is we've had a good open conversation, but we've also added some constructive criticism that even if they don't implement now or ever in this game, they can at least possibly take towards the next game. Or if not, it inspires some other indie developer to go, you know what? That would make a difference in my game.
Yeah, well, exactly. You know, I stand on this exact platform with you as well. Like, you know, absolutely love the game, and you know, I love the company, I love the game, and I think that Hello Games and the community is one of the best things that ever happened to the industry by a long shot. And you know, if you love something that much, you're gonna criticize it, and that's all it is. And it's constructive criticism, and it's not like a direct poke or prod at, like, you know, Mr. Murray or the company or the game or anything else like that. But moving on from that, I have some comments from a post that I made, and basically I just asked the community if they wanted to ask any questions whilst we're having this discussion today. Now, from one of the comments I've got here, VS GroundNet commented, given this last update, regarding being able to have more color options on freighters, will the option of being able to change a ship's color follow suit soon? So I mean, that's actually quite a good one. Like, where do you stand with that? Do you think like ship customization and being able to change ship colors and things like that, do you think that should be added into the game?
I would like to see it, but more importantly, maybe if you don't even give it makes no sense that you can change the color of the freighter, but you can't change the color of your starship. I will say that is completely like nonsensical. But with the new starship, the one that just launched, I unlocked it yesterday in online on stream, in for the expedition, and it's cool. But the notable thing about it is that it has a bunch of decals on it. It has decals on it, a lot more decals than all of the other starships of recent note that I can remember. And even if you don't give us the ability to change the colors, because let's just face it, the ship sourcing, ship finding community with subset of No Man's Sky is a pretty powerful community. The Interstellar Index, those people take a lot of time out of their lives to go through and find new ships, to document them, to document these different shakeups and combinations and where you can find them and the color schemes. And I don't want to take away anything from those because those guys have been doing that now for 7 years, right? There's nothing against that. But give us the ability, if you don't give us the ability to change the color, give us the ability to add different decals. And I don't mean like like you can with the Exocraft, because that's still, in my opinion, half-assing it too. Give us the ability to kind of really customize our ships with decals, if nothing else. And yeah, I think that that would be good.
Oh, absolutely. And I've said it before on the channel, like, you know, having that more personal touch so you can put, like you say, don't even have to be like full, like, ship customization, but just having the ability to be able to put some decals on your ship and making the ship a lot more personable to you. I think, again, that would go a long way within the No Man's Sky community. I also have another message here from Server Mist Walker 8388, and they asked, I would like to know the state of Switch optimization and what the future of No Man's Sky on that platform holds. So again, you know, that's a more important topic there. I mean, we know that No Man's Sky has been brought out on Switch, but they don't have all of the features that the main game is supposed to have. What do you think's happening there?
That's Nintendo. 100% that's Nintendo. Nintendo wants to have a closed ecosystem that only they have control over. That's why they're very careful and very protective over all of their IPs. That's why Nintendo games never really go on sale, ever. Right? That's something most people don't even know about. Yeah, Nintendo games never go on sale. They want to control, because and I mean, that's their thing. They've been doing this since '85, especially, at least with video games since '85. So I mean, that's okay. That let them have it. To me, that makes them Nintendo don't, because if you're unwilling to work with the rest of the industry, you can't be a leader in that industry. Period. But that's where the biggest feasibility comes about it. The Switch is essentially a tablet that has attachable controllers, right? Let's be honest, that's exactly what it is. It is a tablet. Even the newer OLED Switches are the hardware on the inside is not much older than 2016 when the Switch launched. It's not that much newer. So yeah, there's not enough horsepower oomph. And this game, like I said, I have it on PlayStation 5. It is currently, well, I have PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. I can feel the heat coming off of the top of the PlayStation, and it's not very hot. We're not doing a lot right now, so we're not pushing the hardware. But my girlfriend has a very, very powerful PC, more powerful than mine. And she starts playing No Man's Sky. If we're in the same room and she plays No Man's Sky for more than 20 minutes, I have to leave because the net temperature in this room goes up by almost 10 degrees.
Yeah.
It pushes a lot.
I mean, exactly. I mean, No Man's Sky is a very demanding game. So, I mean, to answer that question, really, it's down to Nintendo, but it's also down to the limitations that the Nintendo platform does have. So, you know, it's hard to say what is going to be fully available for the Nintendo Switch on what updates that they can feasibly bring into the IP and their platform. I'm sure that Hello Games will introduce some of the Omega parts and some of the Omega aspects, but again, they are very technologically limited to what they could do and can do with the Switch. I mean, it's essentially just a playable toaster. I mean, that's probably about as much power as it has.
Well, if anything, the Switch version, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I will say, if anything, remember how we went back to the original discussion of, well, No Man's Sky was most likely meant to be a single-player experience only. The Switch is probably, ironically, the closest you're going to get to that single-player experience.
Yeah, completely, wholeheartedly agree. I have another message here from Ball Chaser. And he puts, I know that games seem to have a finite lifespan, but No Man's Sky has such a following and it seemed to strike a chord with a lot of gamers and resulting in a solid hope YouTube contributors continue to support the community. I think the question there is, obviously, we know that this is an old game now, and I've even touched upon it, and it kind of really is a touchy subject for a lot of people because they don't want this game to end. But when do you see what I dub anyway, the update apocalypse? Like, how long is it, do you think, that it's going to be when Halo Games shuts off the service for the game and don't offer any more updates. When do you think that's going to come? Do you think it's going to be in the next few years, or do you think it's going to be longer or sooner?
Honestly, I've been, if you had asked me this a couple of months ago, I would have already told you it was basically on its last days. But Omega changed that by a tiny bit. So I honestly, you can see the trickle down effect. You can absolutely see it. That they probably have maybe two or three people who are actively working on No Man's Sky. Everybody else is working on their next games. Um, that being the case, like I said, I think maybe we'll go to 2026, maybe 2027, and then they'll basically kind of just go, well, that's it. That wraps the bow on No Man's Sky. No further updates, or maybe a patch here or there if they need to. But I mean, no additional content will be coming out after that point, and it'll just be what it is.
Yeah.
Whether they decide to continue to run the servers for a little while longer after that, they probably will, only because they want to make sure that people are there. But then there's no prospect on what you're going to do. And you've got a lot of people who built up a lot of really cool creations, and they can't take those anywhere else. Right?
Exactly.
Those are here. They're stuck here forever.
Exactly. And, No Man's Sky, as big as it is, I mean, no game is immune to, obviously, the just time in life in general. I mean, as someone who loves this game, I want to see this game go on forever. Of course I do, but as a company for Hello Games, I know that's not going to be completely feasible, but I don't know. I think that the updates will eventually start trickling down, but I still think it's got easily another 5+ years on No Man's Sky yet. I don't think they're going to completely axe the game off when Light No Fire comes out, which is what some seem to be speculating in the community, but I don't know, that's just what I feel.
No, I don't think they're going to completely axe it, but obviously it'll be the vast majority of their focus, and then maybe there might be some small trickles out for No Man's Sky after that. But once Light No Fire is out, then the clock is already ticking at that point on No Man's Sky. And I say that because any worthwhile developer is going to do that. They're not going to be like, you know what, we just spent $5 million making, or $50 million making Light No Fire, but I really wish you guys would play more No Man's Sky. They're not going to do that. You know what I mean? They're going to be, here's the hot newness. We need you to play the hot newness. You can go back and play the good stuff, the good old days, but we really, really, really want your money, and we really want you to play the hot newness, because we're excited about where this is going to go. Help us figure out where this is going to go. You're going to have some people who are not going to want to be. Originally, I wasn't going to do Light No Fire, and I'm still kind of on the fence about it, because I have a problem with fantasy games. I'm an old D&D vet, a very old D&D vet, and I have found in the last at least 15 years especially, I cannot seem to stay engaged with any kind of a fantasy game. I don't know what it is, I don't know why it is, and I don't really want to get invested into Light No Fire, only to just kind of meh and get that meh feeling, and then I'm out. Right? You know what I mean? So I'm just like, I'm hedging my bet until Light No Fire shows up, and kind of going from there. But I have a lot of other games that I can cover, that I can play, that I can keep my vested interest in, as well as especially old stalwarts like Star Traders Frontiers, for example, that I can fall back on, that I know I can get that consistent fix, that itch, that whatever it is, that little thing that I need out of whatever No Man's Sky provides me, or that other game provides me. It's the same kind of feeling. I know I still have the ability to have access to that. And if the future is Light No Fire, which it most likely is, fine. But I don't think that they're going to kill No Man's Sky as soon as Light No Fire comes up. But I promise you, its days are numbered once Light No Fire releases, bar none.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I feel like a lot of people in the community does need to realize. Hello Games is a company, and companies at the end of the day, the only reason a company exists is to make profit, is to make money. So their interest will be Light No Fire. So like you said, when Light No Fire is released, the time is gonna start ticking. But I don't think, like you say, it's not gonna be an immediate cut dry and that's that. But I feel like it will start winding down significantly thereafter. But that's just, like I said, that's what I personally think.
I agree.
So, is there any questions that you would like to ask while we're having this talk?
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so incredibly much for suggesting this collaboration and, more importantly, for inviting me for this interview. I very much appreciate that, Cynical. And I'm if any of your fans want to stop by on my channel and ask questions, like I said, I'm a multi-platform gamer. I've been doing this for over 4 decades. I have a lot of experience and a lot of things that I can point to that most people would probably not even realize. So there's a lot of good stuff there, and I'm willing to bet that there's more exciting stuff from Hello Games in the future regardless. I haven't really checked out The Last Campfire. That's something that I keep forgetting about. It kind of, honestly, when that kind of dropped, it was really quiet, right? It didn't make a
Yeah.
lot of splash, at least not on my part of the globe.
Yeah, no, not really over here in the UK. I mean, people knew about it, but it wasn't. I don't think it was very heavily advertised. I think that's the reason why.
Yeah, that might be part. Which is weird because if you've got enough capital built up from releasing your previous game on a bunch of platforms, why wouldn't you do some additional marketing? That's interesting.
I know,
Hmm.
I know. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'll have a link to Sin's channel in the video description and even as a pinned comment in this video here today. Go and show him some love. Go and hit that subscribe button. Let him know that I sent you over, and definitely start asking the questions. I mean, these are all important topics that you, the community, have sent in, and even that we've touched upon here today. But definitely, if you have any more questions, go and send them his way. Highly recommend it. If there's anything else that you want to say, or shall we just end it off here?
No, we'll just end it off here. Have a happy and safe one. Don't forget to be awesome. That's the only thing I want to add. Thank you again so much, Cynical. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, and thank you very much for your time here today. I know it's getting a bit later for you as well, and we had a lot of problems trying to get this conversation started. But I just want to thank you once again for having this time with me here today as well. But there we go, ladies and gentlemen. At the end of the day, a lot of important topics were spoken about. You've had your say. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this entire conversation. Do you believe that Light No Fire will be the ticking time bomb for No Man's Sky's eventual end? Or do you think completely different? Do you think that networking needs to be fixed? Again, let me know your thoughts, comment section down below. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is everything from me here today. And as always, my name is Professor Cynical, and I'll catch you all again in the next one. Bye for now. And there we go, sorted. Honestly, buddy, thank you so much for this.
No, you're very welcome.